I'm Iris Matthews, a romance author, and as I have been thinking about point of view and trying to come up with novels that really exemplify all the various point of views, I've been spending my time revisiting some novels I've read in the past and reading a bunch of new to me novels. And when I started thinking about Omniscient, I noticed one that it's not done quite as often, I think, as it has been in previous time frames, different eras of writing. It's kind of gone out of fashion a little bit, and so I just kept returning to a classic, and that is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And she, of course, is the famous English author who published the novel originally in 1813. And for those who maybe haven't read it since high school or never read it and have only ever heard of it or seen the adaptations, you may not remember or know that it isn't just a third person, and it's certainly not like close limited. It's definitely not first person. No, we are following Elizabeth Bennet through a very strong voiced narrator, like this omniscient, all knowing, all seeing, all hearing narrator is telling this story. And so there's one passage in particular that I really think is a beauty, and so I'm going to read that for us. It comes in chapter 6. Occupied in observing Mr. Bingley's attentions to her sister, Elizabeth was far from suspecting that she was herself becoming an object of some interest in the eyes of his friend. Mr. Darcy had at first scarcely allowed her to be pretty. He had looked at her without admiration at the ball, and when they next met, he looked at her only to criticize. But no sooner had he made it clear to himself and his friends that she hardly had a good feature in her face, than he began to find it was rendered uncommonly intelligent by the beautiful expression of her dark eyes. To this discovery succeeded some others equally mortifying. Though he had detected with a critical eye more than one failure of perfect symmetry in her form, he was forced to acknowledge her figure to be light and pleasing, and in spite of his asserting that her manners were not those of the fashionable world, he was caught by their easy playfulness. Of this she was perfectly unaware. To her, he was only the man who made himself agreeable nowhere, and who had not thought her handsome enough to dance with. He began to wish to know more of her, and as a step towards conversing with her himself, attended to her conversation with others. His doing so drew her notice. All right, so what is happening here? I mean, it's very clearly this kind of pulled back view of these two people and kind of little peeks into their interiority and, their changing perceptions. And I think that what Austen does so masterfully is her use of word choices here, right? If we go back to the very beginning, occupied in observing, right? Austen could have simply said, Elizabeth watched Mr. Bingley, but occupied with observing is doing a lot of work here. Those three words, right? We know that she is like distracted. She's preoccupied. She's not focused on anything else going around her because she is zeroed in on determining whether Mr. Bingley likes her sister Jane. So she's kind of oblivious, but we have that kind of like purpose of what she is doing, right? And so those three words total heavy lifting there. And then we also are being told by the narrator, she is far from suspecting. She was perfectly unaware. So she has no clue. And if we were in limited third person or, deep third person, any of those kind of deeper point of views, we would not be able to have that perception of like what is happening outside of Elizabeth. The other thing that is done so well here is we get that self-possessive pronouns, right? The herself and himself, that gives a lot of that interiority, a lot of like what is happening within the character themselves. Of course, an omniscient narrator knows what's happening inside of each character, but it's just kind of a reminder to us that that we have this little bit of distance. And of course, having an omniscient narrator allows them to be honest with us in ways that Darcy would not be honest with, somebody he was talking to. His friends don't know that he has changing perception. Elizabeth doesn't know that she has caught his eye, so it is just a shining example in my opinion. But I'd love to hear from you. Are there any omniscient books that you love? Have you written omniscient yourself? It's pretty difficult to pull off. My first go at my first novel, I tried to start in very Austen-like in an omniscient sort of way and definitely did not pull it off well, so pivoted. So let me know in the comments. I appreciate you being here. If you have not already, subscribe to my channel, please do so, and make sure you like my videos and click the bells and do all the buttons and do all the things. So I'll see you next time.